Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Charles. I want to welcome you guys to another episode of the Dreamerspro Show, where we cover everything from sports, hot topics, classic debates, entertainment, where we give you guys a fresh perspective on things and how we see them. And in today's episode, was that the best game of the year that we just witnessed last night from the Clippers and Kawhi Leonard? So that's the topic I want to get into in today's video. But before we get into that, I want you guys to please make sure you go ahead and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and hit the notification bell to be notified whenever we drop our content. Also, guys, make sure you hit that notification bell, because if you don't, you will not see all the videos that we have coming out. Also, be sure to check out our Dreamerspro Max online sports community. Is a place where you can go and start basketball discussions, chat live during games, which we were doing all of last night during that game. Consume original content that you're not going to be able to get anywhere else, and so many other cool things. So if you guys are interested in that, be sure to check that out. We have that linked in the description below, and get 7 days of free access. I'm sure you guys are going to love it, because last night, man, we had so much fun on there during that game. So going into last night's game, all right, I thought that the Clippers were going to win that game against the Atlanta Hawks. Now, I knew that the Atlanta Hawks had been on an 8-game winning streak. I knew they had just beaten the Lakers. I was aware of that, and I know they had been playing well, at least a lot better than they've been playing earlier in the season. Although early in the season, when the season first started, they started off very, very hot. So I knew the Atlanta Hawks were going to be playing very well. So we went into the game. We got into the game. The first quarter started, right, and the Clippers weren't perfect. They got out to an early lead, and then they started turning the ball over. Right, they started getting sloppy with the ball. Then the Atlanta Hawks started getting back into the game. And at the end of the first quarter, I think the Atlanta Hawks took the lead, and then the Clippers took the lead with a shot, which they ended up going into the second quarter with the lead. So I was like, okay. And in the back of my mind, I was saying to myself, I said, I hope they don't try to do what they're usually known for doing, which is being inconsistent, because they started off well, then they started getting sloppy. It's like the starters, once they got a good lead, they just took their minds just went out of the game. And I'm like, I hope they don't overlook this Atlanta Hawks team, and I hope they don't come in here and stink up the joint. Then the second quarter started, and then the foolishness started. One of the things the Clippers started doing, which I don't understand, which they always do, is that they keep, whenever they have Ivica Zubac in the game, they always try to force feed this guy the ball. And I was saying it during the chat, I'm like, why do they keep force feeding the ball to Zubac? Number one, it leads to a lot of turnover. You see them driving into the paint, trying to force feed him the ball. Defenders are slapping away at the ball. You already know that Zubac sometimes can have butterfingers. He has a tendency, when they throw him the ball high, and when he catches the ball high, he tends to come down with the ball and bring the ball down to his waist, and then go up again instead of just keeping the ball high and going back up. And a player that was really good at that was good at keeping the ball high, was like, what's his name? Andrew Bynum. If you guys, the Laker fans who know this, if you guys ever watch Andrew Bynum, he was very good at keeping the ball above his head, so defenders didn't have that opportunity to swipe at the ball. But they kept on force feeding Zubac, right? And I know that Zubac brings shot blocking, plays with a lot of energy, but Zubac clogs up the paint, man. And them forcing him the ball like as if he's Akeem Olajuwon. He's not Olajuwon, right? Like, Zubac is not going to go out there and get you 20 points every night, but they kept force feeding him the ball, which I don't understand when they have other post players in the game like Kawhi Leonard and PG, but it may be maybe part of their offensive scheme. I don't understand why they keep trying to force feed Zoo the ball. I don't know if it's to keep him engaged in the game, but I notice they do that a lot. Now, I notice with Serge, they usually get him the first 1 or 2 shots just to kind of get him going, but with Zubac, they just continue to overdo it. Another thing about Zubac that I mentioned, I've said it before and I'll say it again, I like Zubac, but the problem is he clogs the paint. It makes it very hard for Clipper players to get to the basket and get contact, because he's there, right? He's a big body in the paint, so he's another body that the Clippers, even the players trying to get to the basket, have to account for. And number two, he doesn't bring out opposing bigs. He doesn't draw them out of the basket, he draw them away from the rim, because he doesn't make perimeter shots, right? This was another thing that you saw with Montrezl Harrell. Montrezl Harrell cannot step out to the 3-point line and bring out opposing bigs with him. He's not a jump shooting, he's not a pick and pop type of player, so the paint would always be clogged. So, and that's why at times it was difficult for the Clippers to get to the basket, and you saw them having some spacing issues with him, with him on the floor. Then the second quarter started getting funky, and the Clippers started turning into the Clippers, right? And I was starting to get frustrated. And then some of the people in the chat, they were like, yeah, I told you, and this and this and that. And shout out to Mark, man. Shout out to Mark. So Mark in the middle of the chat, in the middle of the game, when the Clippers about getting the doors blown off for them, he goes, I bet you that they're going to come back and win this game. And then Kato was like, yeah, right, and this and this and this and this. So he was like, yo, I bet you this and this. So they were going back and forth between this or whatever it is. So they went into the half. You guys remember the team was down, like they were down by a pretty big, decent, a decent margin. I think they were down by like 20 plus points. And I said to Kato, I was like, man, go ahead. Are you going to take this bet or what? So Kato didn't respond to me. Then the third quarter started, right? Then the Clippers starters came out in the third quarter and they were totally lifeless. Totally lifeless. I think with a minute and a half into that third quarter, Ty Lue had to call a timeout. I'm sure he chewed them out during that timeout. Like, man, wake up! What's wrong? What's going on with you guys? Then they brought them back in the game, and for the next 4 to 5 minutes, the starters were just there stinking up the joint. Paul George was blowing defensive aside. I mean, it was a mess. Then Ty Lue decided to call another timeout and substituted all of his starters out of the game. And I said to myself at that time, and I said it in the chat, I said, what an embarrassment. Just imagine how embarrassing it must be that you as starters with $100 million payroll, starting 5 payroll, and they had to sub you guys out of the game because you guys were lifeless in a game like this at home. Not like as if you had to travel or anything, at home. And you guys came out flat-footed and lifeless and not focused. And I was like, wow. Then the bench players came in, the bench mob came in. And then I started to witness something I had never seen before with 20 points down. Luke Kennard and Terrence Mann just completely went outside of their mind. Like, they started playing with so much energy. Guys were going, attacking defenders. They were running a little bit of the zone. Then Luke Kennard started making shots. Luke Kennard didn't miss a single shot in that third quarter. Terrence Mann, oh my God. Terrence Mann was driving to the basket, making defensive plays. He hit the 3-pointer at the corner to give the Clippers. So, I mean, I was sitting there saying to myself, I don't think I've ever seen anything like this. It was to the point where the starters and the staff and everybody from the Clippers, everybody was standing up cheering for the guys. And Ballmer and his son, who I'm going to get to in a minute, they were just losing it, right? They were just, Ballmer is one of the greatest owners out there as far as just showing support and showing enthusiasm. But they were just losing it. Like, they were just like, they couldn't believe what they were watching. And then they went into the before they're going into the fourth quarter, Luke Kennard hits a half-court 3-point shot, banks it in to cut the lead to 8. And I was like, you have got to be kidding. Like, this is unheard of. What do you see something like this? Where have you ever seen, a game turn like this? Then the fourth quarter starts and Kato goes, I'm gonna win that bet as soon as the starters come back in the game. So the fourth quarter starts and they still have the bench players in it. And I'm saying to myself, I know when they go back to their starters, I hope they don't come in here and stink up the joint and make all of this effort for nothing. They came in, and then I think they hit a shot, and then they gave up a shot, and I was like, oh my God, are they about to do this? Then all of a sudden, the starters started getting going. Kawhi Leonard started to get going. Paul George started to get going. And before you knew it, the Clippers had made it a game. Then, with like a minute or 2 minutes left in the game, Kawhi Leonard rose up from the ashes and turned into clutch Kawhi. He turned into the claw again, and he hit 2 big 3-point shots with the shot clock expiring like from 27 feet out. And I was just like, wow. And the second one he hit, he was there screaming. When you see Kawhi Leonard screaming and yeah, that's when he was feeling it. I was like, whoa, like this dude hit that shot, and I couldn't believe it. You saw Steve Ballmer, at the end of the game, they ended up winning the game. You saw Steve Ballmer hugging Terrence Mann and hugging Luke Kennard, and I was just saying to myself, like, are they still going to trade these dudes after this game? Like, I wonder what was going through their minds at that time. And it was just like, I had never seen anything like that before. I think that was the game of the year right there. That was the game of the year for me. And I think that win, if used properly, that win should bring this team together, right? Because for that bench to come out there and fight like that, and the way that they did, Luke Kennard going 8 for 8 from the field, not missing a single shot, going 4 for 4 from the field, scoring, I think, 22 points off the bench. Terrence Mann scoring 21 points, hitting some big shots. Not like, these were not garbage bucket shots. Like, these were, shots that mattered, big shots that mattered. I think it's going to help the confidence of those young guys. And man, what a game! To me, I've seen a lot of games this year, but I think that was the game of the year for me. That was the game of the year. And kudos to the Clippers and Kawhi, man, because they saved themselves from embarrassment, major embarrassment. They're not out of the woods yet, but that was a very, very, very big win. So what I want to know from you guys, what do you think about that game? Was that the game of the year? Was it one of the best games you've seen? I've never seen something like that before. I've seen teams come back from being down. I've seen that before. But I have not seen a situation where a team is down 20 plus points in the third. You then sub out the starters and then bring in the bench, and then the bench brings you back in, and then the starters. I had never seen anything like that before. So whatever you guys thought about the game, please let me know your thoughts and comments in the comment section below. Again, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to make sure you go ahead and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and hit the notification bell to be notified whenever we drop our content. Once again, this is Charles here from Dreamerspro. Wishing you guys an amazing day and catch you guys on the next episode.